Dogs, cats, hamsters, guinea pigs, even giant rabbits. A household today can boast any number of different domesticated animals as pets, and for the most part, that's absolutely fine. But there comes a point when today's society at large begins to frown as we move from fluffy friends into the world of insects, spiders, and that age-old terror to half of humanity, the snake.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
What if I told you, though, that in ancient Greece and Rome, snakes were not only part of many households, but in the words of Pliny, vulgo pascitur et in domibus, often raised in our homes. Beyond the obvious what the fuck, the question I try to answer today then is, why? Why on earth did Greeks and Romans raise snakes? And why did this common practice become such a niche interest today? Starting in mythology and religion, we're taken straight to the Greek god of healing, Asclepius. His staff, or rhabdos, the Asclepian, is famous for having a snake woven around it. To the earliest Greeks, snakes became a symbol of healing, possibly due to their tendency to shed their skin and rejuvenate themselves, and this ended up reflected in the myths of their healer god. Asclepius was granted 2 phials of Medusa's blood from Athena. These, along with the healing knowledge taught to him by his father Apollo and Chiron the centaur, allowed Asclepius the power to kill and the power to heal. The snakehead Medusa's blood may also be a mythological explanation for the later practice of inoculation, commonly practiced by Greek physicians, whereby small doses of snake venom would be administered as prophylactic medicine against fatal bites. The healing power of the snake in myth continued into Roman times, where Ovid has Asclepius turn into a snake to save the city from plague when the Senate consulted him. And it was the Cretans who said that when Glaucus, son of King Minos, died, Asclepius was able to bring him back to life. He did so after seeing a live snake resurrect a dead snake with a particular herb, and so using the same herb on Glaucus. Others ascribe this feat to Polyeidos, the descendant of the great Sir Melampos, an incredible hero and subject of an earlier video linked top right. In time, the Asclepia, the healing temples, would be filled with Aesculapian snakes, today known as the Zamenes longissimus, the species on the god's staff. These are non-venomous snakes that can grow up to 2 meters or more in length and would be left free to slither around the medical chambers as the physicians worked. Not only were they considered hygienic, safe, and symbols of good health, but tame and friendly to the patients being treated. Tame snakes also appeared with the heroes of Greek myth, not just the gods. Ajax the Lesser, or the Locrian Ajax, had a pet snake, 3 meters long, which drank with and accompanied him, sometimes leading him, other times following him like a pet dog. Einai de auto kai keiroet het raconta pentape kun to megatos, hon xympinen de kai xynenai to aianti, kai hadon he geistai, kai xunomartein hoyon kunna. With tales like this, we can start to believe that ancient Greeks might have had a different collective perception of snakes to most of us today, at least on the whole. Moving closer to understanding why they tamed and kept them as pets, we can take a look at some real examples of pet snakes in Antiquity. One of the more famous examples of household snakes was that of Olympias, mother to Alexander the Great. She was a priestess of a Dionysian cult and would host religious ceremonies for the women of Macedon, into which Ophis megalus chiroethis Philippicae, she would bring large tamed snakes. Lucian of Samosata built on this in his blistering critique of the Glykon cult in Macedonia centuries later. He references Idontes thorakontas pamaiethis, merus pannu kai tithasus, hos kai hypogonaikon trefestai, kai paidiois sun katheftin, kai patumenos anechestai, kai thlivomenus me aianactin. A species of immense snakes, so tame and domesticated that women raise them. They sleep among children, they are stepped on and held aloft, and don't mind being squeezed. As said above, Asclepian snakes were tame in healing sanctuaries, one of which Pausanias describes in Epidaurus on the Argolid Peninsula further south than Macedonia. He tells us, "Thracontes the snakes, isen anthropoi semeroi, are tame around people." We know from Suetonius that Tiberius was close with his pet snake, which he would feed in person and bring on his travels with him. Tacitus recorded that Nero grew up around at least one snake, which may just have passed on some of its characteristics to the future emperor. And it wasn't just Roman emperors that kept snakes. Seneca recalls a feast where inter pocula sinusque in oxio lapsu dracones, snakes would glide harmlessly between people's cups and laps. And Martial references a noblewoman who wore a snake around her neck like a scarf. Moving on from snakes kept for healing or as pets by the upper echelons of Greco-Roman society, we can look in a little more detail now at why Pliny insinuated they were common in many ordinary homes too. We know that they were brought to Rome from Epidaurus, possibly for the original purpose of protecting the Romans from a plague in 293 BCE. Whatever the why, when or how they got to Rome though, they stayed, and were bred for centuries for use in homes even when there wasn't an epidemic to be saved from. Probably the best explanation for this is that they were ideal for keeping the home free of pests, such as mice or rats. As a non-venomous snake able to live easily on either dry ground or water, the Aesculapian snake was the perfect guardian. It secured its own meals, took up very little space, didn't cause much harm, and didn't need much effort to acclimate it to most Roman habitats. In fact, later zoologists have found rodent remains preserved in snake stomachs dating back to these Roman times. It's not unreasonable then to see now why snakes were so common in ancient households, and the reason they aren't anymore is because pest control has taken more than a few steps from those times. The fact is, we just don't need to keep snakes around to keep rats out. As for pet snakes, yes, they were in vogue among the upper classes in Antiquity, and that hasn't really changed too much today. Many people still find them exotic, and some keep them as pets, even milking their venom to keep them harmless, as the ancients did. So I hope we've managed to answer the what snakes were used for, and the why they were kept around. We can see that pet snakes, not pest control snakes, could well have been an upper class luxury, and other groups kept them around for religious or medicinal reasons in line with the beliefs of the time. A question left remaining then is, did the ancients really like snakes any more or less than we do today? The short answer is probably not. Plenty of people today, as we've said, do like snakes, and the reality is the snakes kept so commonly in antiquity were one pretty harmless species of it. It's not like pet cobras or boa constrictors were normal sights. And a little quip from Cicero, who calls a tribune viperam illam venenatum ac pestiferam, that venomous and destructive viper, gives us a little evidence that other snakes were reviled as much as they often are today. So that's snakes in antiquity, from religious icon to mouse catcher. I think the important thing to remember when someone tells you that the Greeks and Romans kept snakes as pets is that on the whole it was one type of snake, and more likely than not they were kept to serve a purpose.